Hey, MegaJeff here again. Time to look at some 80s metal. That's right on my sweet spot. This is some recent 80s, late 80s metal that I have picked up in various places that I wanted to show real quick. Yeah, I've been surprised because a couple of these, it seemed like I was on a run. I'll get to that in a minute. It seemed like I was on a run with a particular label, which I'll show you because this first one's not it. I got these in chronological order just because I'm like, look at this. These are all, 86, 87, 88. 86, Praised Aloud by CJSS. Are you familiar with them? This is David Chastain. That's what the C stands for. David Chastain, guitar shredder. He did a lot of instrumental albums. He also has the band Chastain with Leather Leone on vocals. They went on to do a ton of albums. But prior to a lot of that, there was this. Well, not prior to, around the same time. This is 1986. This is kind of a side project. This has got a male vocal singer. What is his name? Russell Jenkins. It is straight up metal, borderline. Some people call it a little thrashy, but, borderline, just straight up metal. And so I've been on the lookout for these. I have these in various formats on CDs and stuff. This goes on. I already had the second album, World Gone Mad. Wait a minute. That's the first album. I already had the first one. This was the second. It's weird because they're both 1986. They both came out in the same year, but one of them, I think I got them in the right order. If you look at the catalog number, yeah, this one's, the catalog number is 862. This is catalog 861, which tells me that this one was printed first at least, but maybe they were recorded similarly. But, this one came out. But I had this one from a few months back, and so I was finally glad to get this. They really only did the two albums. In 2000, they did get back together. So this is 86, both of them 86. 14 years later in 2000, they got together and did a new album, CD only. I do have that. And then there's been some demos released. I don't think there's been any more studio work. So really, the real heyday is the two albums from 1986. So now, finally have both of them. So very happy about that. That's on Leviathan Records, which is David Chastain's own label. Then you move into 1987. This one, went back. I left this behind at a couple months ago at the store on the other side of the water. I found all kinds of killer stuff. That was that one where I found all kinds of weird compilations and stuff at a local store over there. So I was back over there maybe 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, let's swing by there because if they still have that Agent Steel, I'm going to go ahead and get it. I didn't buy it at the time because it was a little pricey. I realize now it's not as pricey as it is online. It's a good price, but I had bought so many other records that night. I couldn't tack on more money. I just was tapped out. So I went over there and got this, and I picked up a couple jazz things for like $1. So I didn't come. This was the main thing I bought when I went over there. I'm not even going to drag out the jazz stuff, but I got some stuff from the dollar bin, which was really cool. And but this was the main thing. I went, I looked. That's all they had. They didn't have anything else really of any interest at the time. So I went ahead and grabbed this. 1987. This is the second Agent Steel album. There is the first one, which I don't have any other ones except the most recent one that came out in the past couple years that you can get pretty much anywhere on Amazon or whatever for like 15, 16 bucks. It's a more modern day release, but the early days, early thrashy type stuff of the 80s, 87. Now, I hearkened to this in my last video, the Greg Howe. This is still in the shrink wrap with the hype sticker. It was open though. Had two price stickers on it, but one of them I was able to, it just flaked right off, and then this one is stuck on there. And this is where I ran into a handful of Shrapnel releases. Shrapnel Records back in the 80s was one of my go-to labels. I literally right now, sight unseen, will buy anything on Shrapnel because everything on Shrapnel in the day was what I liked. It was all in that sweet spot. So I would not even balk at a Shrapnel release. If I saw it, I'd buy it, even if I didn't know who the band was. And this is one of them. They were notorious for being guitar driven. They were, the label that put out the first. They did the first Keel album, but they did that, the Steeler album because Yngwie Malmsteen was like this new talent. They brought that up. Shrapnel just was guitar shredder oriented, and they did a lot of these instrumental guitar hero type albums. They did the Jason Beckers and the Marty Friedmans and the the Richie Kotzens, just every album on Shrapnel back in the day I was buying. And they did a lot of stuff, you know, with vocals too. So this is one of those guitar shredder, instrumental, Joe Satriani type things of the 80s, 88. And I mentioned this in my other video because he also did a band, Howe, which, again, Shrapnel Records, that I picked up on Whatnot, and this is where he did one with vocals. He's done quite a bit of albums, instrumental. This is, I think, the only one on vinyl. The one that came after this in like 89 or 90, it seems like it was only on CD. Richie Kotzen, who you know from Winery Dogs, Poison, all kinds of stuff, Kotzen Smith, he's done all kinds of stuff. He started off on Shrapnel as a shredder. His first album, still absolutely one of my favorite of those albums. It was a little more melodic than it was shredding. His second album had some vocals because he was starting to tinker with singing. Third one, Electric Joy, one of my favorite albums. I have most all of those on CD. He later, about the fifth album or so in the early 90s, him and Greg got together and did the Kotzen Howe album, which I used to have on CD. Most of those are not on vinyl, but this is, and he has continued putting stuff out over the years. I just lost track of him, mostly independent type stuff. And in 2019, I found he pressed one of his albums on vinyl. And I ordered it the other day because of all the stuff he's put out, this and that are like the only things I think that are on vinyl that I could see. So I went ahead and ordered that directly from him. I was glad to find it because it's a 2019 album. 6 years later, it's still available because it was independent released, and it was a good price. And I'm thinking I'm going to grab it, so I ordered that. It's got Billy Sheehan on bass. These instrumental albums back in the days had all-star people. The first Richie Kotzen album had Steve Smith on drums, you know, from Journey. Had people like Billy Sheehan. These guys were like revolving door studio musicians that came in with these guitar heroes. Dean Castronova, Joey Tefola's instrumental albums back in the day, some of my favorite. Tony McAlpine, he was on a different label, but still in the same vein. Maybe he had a Shrapnel release, but he was on a different label, Squawk Records. But anyway, yeah, anything with that tank on it, I'm buying if I see it. And excellent condition. Also, 1988, The Eyes of Time, Apocrypha. They are a vocal band. They are on Shrapnel Records. Again, melodic metal, a little speed metal flair. This is their second album. Would love to get their first, and they have a third, and they have a couple other releases. Again, they've popped up over time. But in the heyday, I think the first and second album, this one, were the only two that we really seem to be aware of. Great melodic speed type metal. And then also on Shrapnel is the first live album from Racer X. Paul Gilbert's band, Jeff Martin on vocals. They did 2 albums. They did a live album, and then they did a live album volume 2. Actually, I got this one online, and he had Lethal, what was it, the first album, Lethal Injection. The first album, which I don't have. I have the second, which I showed in a video a couple videos ago. They had the first album, but people knew, and it went up there. It typically runs at least $30 online, and I think it shot up to like $50. I'm like, it's too rich for me. But I popped this one out in the 20s, and so I'm like, I'll buy that one, but I didn't want to go that high on the first one. So now I need the first album, and I need the other live album. But again, this is also we got Scott Travis on drums. Of course, this is where he was in Racer X before he went on to be of Judas Priest fame. And I may have mentioned this before, but he lives locally. He's here locally in Virginia Beach. He has a house here. His family is here. This is where he's from. He was in the local bands. Most of the guys that I play with in my local bands, who have been around a lot longer than I have, because I only moved back to Virginia, to this area in 2002, but he was he played in a lot of local bands around here. So Scott Travis is from this area. His house is not too far down the street from here. I don't know which his house is, but apparently when they're not on tour and he's back over here, you'll see him. You'll find him at Kroger's, record stores. People run into him all the time. I've never run into him. I'm looking for him, but never have run into him. He lives literally in, you know, like 2 miles from here. So be nice to run into him one day. But yeah, I don't know if he's got a more permanent residence somewhere else, but that's where he started from. He moved from here to California, I guess, at some point, and joined Racer X and did this whole thing, became a super drum god, has done instrumental videos and stuff, and then eventually made it to Judas Priest. So yeah, there you go. 3 shrapnel records, and then the one that I got the other day. So it just seems like, and I've gotten some recently, you know, in the past 6 months, it seems like I've been hitting shrapnel more than usual. Again, if I see shrapnel, I don't care if I don't know who it is, I'm going to buy it. If you see a shrapnel album out there and it's cheap, buy it and send it to Jeff. He'll take it. But yeah, so they were just, they and Metal Blade in the day were nothing on any of those labels, of either one of those labels would be rejected. Nowadays, Metal Blade, not so much. They're very extreme. Metal Blade, as you got into the 90s, I was picking and choosing. But if it was Metal Blade 1980s, anything in the 80s, and Shrapnel, I don't think Shrapnel's still around, but Mike Varney, I think, went off. I don't know. Did he? I don't know. But anyway, Shrapnel has not, I don't think they're still around, but anything they had put out back in the 80s and maybe early 90s, I would buy. Metal Blade, most anything in the 80s, and some of the stuff into the 90s I probably would buy. That's it though. Just some great stuff right in my sweet spot in the late 80s, the kind of stuff that I really need to fill my spots in my collection. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I'll see you later. Rock on and rock hard.